Welcome to Stay Sparked. On this show, we explore how to stay inspired in the modern world with the most profound lessons from Burning Man, psychedelics, relationships, entrepreneurship, spirituality, travel, and more.
On today's episode of Stay Sparked, we get to talk about the voices in our heads. We talk about our intuition, our ego, the stories. We talk about affirmations. We talk about meditation.
We talked about discerning what is coming from the inside versus the outside. We talked about many different tools and authors that have helped us.
And best practices to get ourselves to be aware of the voice and also to kind of give ourselves a new, more positive voice to listen to and guide us.
Enjoy the episode. Thank you, Dub Sutra, for our beautiful intro song. Welcome to Stay Sparked, where today we're going to be talking about the voices in our heads. But before we get started, let me introduce my co-hosts, my beautiful friends that we get together and share these conversations publicly because they're so gosh darn juicy. So first, hi, Betsy.
Hi, Halcyon.
Betsy is the creator of the Power Affirmation Journal and a healer and coach, and it is so nice to have you here. Betsy, can you tell us something you're grateful for today?
Thank you so much. I am grateful for old friends that I haven't talked to in years and years and years that just come out of the woodworks. I had a really fun connection this past weekend with somebody I have known for many years, but we lost touch, and she just randomly reached out and we had this really beautiful conversation. And I love that, some friendships that seem like they maybe have dissolved can just come right back around again. So I'm really, really grateful for old friends.
Yay, that's so. I spent the day yesterday with high school friends. That was that incredible treat of people that you shared a lot of life with. It's priceless. And also, I'm here with Janus, who is the founder and CEO of New World Nutritionals and bringing supplements to the masses and healing the world. Welcome, Janus.
Thank you for having me, friends. Yeah, something I am feeling gratitude for today is warm clothes. Living here in California, particularly San Diego, it's usually pretty warm, so you can usually get by on like a sweatshirt or something, but it's the middle of winter and it is definitely like on the cooler side. And I'm thankful that I have at least like some warm clothes that I could put on in our, when we wake up in the morning and the place itself is cold and it's just like, so I'm able to kind of get warm real fast. And I'm thankful that I have warm clothes for the mornings and for cold days. I'm definitely feeling appreciative of that today.
Nice. I always love showing my warm clothes to friends from like Minnesota so they can just have a nice laugh at what I consider to be warm.
It's cold here in San Diego. It dropped down to 42 this weekend.
Yeah, it was 42 degrees this morning when I woke up. Yep. So it's like that's cold no matter where you're at. So so your friends in Minnesota can,
Well, I don't want to start right there. Minnesota. We are not going to win that fight.
Yeah, I'll stop right there. That's true.
Gratitude for coziness.
Yes, gratitude for coziness. Definitely feeling that. So,
I am Halcyon. I have the Hug Nation YouTube channel and have the lovemorefearless.com t-shirt store. And I am feeling grateful for a video that someone shared with me yesterday. They said that the comment was, "My baby gets no screen time except to watch your live Love Morning broadcasts on the weekends." And show me this video of this little baby watching me sing and talk about gratitude, and this baby just giggling and watching me. And it was just just lit me up. And then when I reached out to Rosie, the mom, who's been active in gratitude circles, she said she got to know your voice in utero, and now she's got you as a pink-haired friend. I'm like, oh, so grateful. So grateful.
That's amazing. That is so amazing. Sharing your light.
So the voices in utero is not what we're talking about. We're talking about the voices in our heads. So I'm curious, was there a time, Betsy, when you started to realize that there was maybe a difference between your thoughts and voices in your head, and how maybe there was something separate there?
Oh my gosh. Yes. So I love this topic so much. I have been exploring how impactful my thoughts are for some years now. It's been a major part of my focus and my work. And I feel like one of the first times it really became clear to me, and to answer your question, where I started to notice the difference, was when I did a Vipassana 10-day silent meditation retreat some years ago, where you don't talk to anybody, no eye contact, no reading, no writing, no gesturing, and you meditate for anywhere from 6 to 8 hours a day for 10 days straight. And so you really get an opportunity to be with your thoughts. And I started to notice, as being the witness, when certain thoughts would come in and certain thoughts would sound more like voices, whether they were mine or someone else's. I started to have a greater sense of awareness of what was mine and what's not, which ones I wanted to give power to, and which ones I could release. And so I feel like meditation has been the biggest catalyst for me to have a deeper relationship with my thoughts.
Ooh, I still am in the category of someone too scared to do Vipassana. So I love hearing how powerful it is and that constant reminder. But it has to do with the depth of these voices and how much a part of our life they are. How about you, Yunus? Any place that you can look back on?
It's similar to Betsy. It's my experience with being aware of my thoughts and starting to identify like which thoughts were mine and which were, maybe not mine, was in meditation, like a really starting like a basic beginner's level meditation that I was taught was to simply like light a candle and just focus on the flame and just keep your focus on that and do that up for, let's say, up to 20 minutes. And you start to become, there's something that naturally happens. You start to become aware of like thoughts that kind of just come in and they swirl around and then they just leave. Then they just go. And it's really, it was like profound like experience, the first time like really seeing these thoughts that were coming in. It's like, wow, where did that thought come from? And it really, I started to recognize like, well, that's this thought is actually a belief of mine. And this thought is something that is just kind of played on a loop in my head that I don't believe, but would still influence my behavior. And that was like my first experience just in a basic beginner's level meditation to become aware of that. And, there's, the deeper you go, like, the deeper it gets, so to speak. And yeah, so that was my first, awareness. And it's gotten, that awareness has gotten more profound as I've, kind of continued on my journey.
Mm-hmm.
One of the resources that really helped me see and be aware of this is the book, The Untethered Soul. And he describes the scenario of we're driving around in a car with a passenger who's narrating your life and saying, "Oh, we used to have a car like that. Oh, that's where we met Susie. Oh, I wonder if Susie still likes us, And this is and as he's describing this passenger, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have this passenger. I have this voice. And then he goes on to describe how that voice will give you warnings that do not come true. Like, oh, they're going to be mad at you if you get there. If you get there too late, everyone's going to be mad. And then you get there, no one cares. But you keep believing the voice, even though its track record is terrible. You keep believing this wacky voice. And that he said, if it was an actual person in your car, you would think they were a crazy person. And so then once I started to like hear the voice and try to like listen to it and not hear it as my thoughts, but a voice, the insanity of some of the stuff just starts to really be obvious.
Yes, I love that so much. And it actually reminds me of another book, which is by, I think it's Elizabeth Gilbert, and she does Big Magic. And she speaks to this concept of having doubt to be in the back seat, right? So doubt's going to come with you on the ride, wherever you're going, whatever creative endeavor or your relationships, but it's up to us to keep it in the back seat, right? It's like, okay, yeah, I'm going to notice those thoughts of saying, oh, you can't do that, or you shouldn't do that. But really, it's up to us to be able to take control of the drive and say, okay, yeah, I'm just going to keep going forward. I love that so much. And then also to be able to have the awareness of those thoughts when they come in, then what I've experienced is this opportunity to change them. Because otherwise, if I'm not aware of those thoughts, then they're just running the show. When I start to see them and pay attention to them, then it's like, oh, actually, do I want to think that right now? Like I'll just kind of like echo one you shared around like going somewhere and kind of anticipating that I'm going to be late, or people are going to be upset that I'm late, and like being in that thought pattern in the car on the way there creates a sense of anxiety, right? And so I've been playing with for a few years now. If I start to see those thoughts coming in, if I'm going somewhere, then taking some breaths and then choosing to think a thought that is more like, I'm going to arrive right on time and it's going to be so perfect. I'm going to get there at exactly the right moment. Even if I'm a little bit late, it's going to be fine. I know there's going to be parking. And I just start kind of chanting these future projections of what I want to create. And I will tell you, there's been so many moments where I arrive to a gathering or an event or someplace, and even if I'm a few minutes late, the person there says, "Oh, you're here at the perfect moment. You got here at the perfect time." It has happened to me so many times, and I just get this little smile inside, and it's like the words that I hear from that friend. It's like a little wink, right? It's like, "Yep,
Nice.
perfect time."
I love that. I want to share another tool that has been so helpful in that exact scenario of being in a car and starting to visualize this future suffering that's going to happen. Byron Katie has this technique of woman sitting in chair or man sitting in chair. So in that situation, man driving a car, which is the only thing real. And so to remember, wait, what is real in this situation? The only thing that's real is that I'm a guy driving a car. Every other thought that I'm having is this fiction. And so I am experiencing suffering from a fiction. So just like pulling back into what's real. Man driving a car. Oh, okay. Man driving a car. Man driving a car. And it's just like the evaporation of this fiction just happens so quickly if I can remember to man sitting in car, man sitting in car.
Yeah, it's well, like you said, that that key point is if I can remember to to do this practice, to follow this wisdom, and that's the tricky part. We can have the awareness, but it's kind of like seems to be the human wiring. It's like we remember and then we forget. Like Betsy was saying, like there's so many instances of things working out perfectly. Like I'm arriving at the perfect time. I'm having the perfect interaction, and then we find ourselves kind of like caught in these loops. Like the next time we're still like stressing about this thing that we stress out 1,000 times before. It worked out in our favor every single time, and we still find ourselves kind of stumbling over these pebbles. And it seems to be the human wiring. So I think the thing is to kind of be kind and gentle with ourselves when we find ourselves like kind of like, oh, having these thoughts and these struggles. And once we remember, instead of immediately turning into kind of beating ourselves up over the forgettings, it's like, okay, no, I know how this goes. I remember how this goes. And just allowing yourself giving yourself some ease and grace in the process.
Yes, absolutely. And setting ourselves up for success too, right? Because I completely resonate with that. It's taken a really long time to get to a place where I regularly practice affirmations. It wasn't a part of my life for many years, maybe occasionally. And a lot of my clients too, it's like, it takes creating a new habit to get into a place of thinking and speaking in affirmations, which that's essentially what we're talking about. And so one of the things that has really helped me is I just keep coming back to this concept from a book. And some of our other podcasts I mentioned is habit stacking. Right. And so we'll use the car as the example, right? If I want to start using affirmations or start becoming more aware of how I'm choosing to think, or giving myself a reminder, as you said, then I'm going to put a little sticky note in my car on my dashboard that says, remember to choose your thoughts. Right. Or have something that like I infuse with that intention, even some kind of like little talisman to like remind me like, oh yes, okay, do my affirmations and put it in my car. So every time I get in my car, it's like, right, okay, pay attention to my thoughts. Or even like, I love the programming where every red light is like, okay, I'm choosing that at every red light, I'm going to say this very specific affirmation or statement. And it's a really powerful way to start to infuse these repetitive thoughts consciously rather than just letting the loop go, right? Because otherwise we'll just get swept up in a rabbit hole of thought.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's
So
really significant the awareness that it is a practice, and you need tools. You need sticky notes. I put stickers. I make stickers that I put on every water bottle. I make T-shirts that have little phrases on it because you need to have things that will snap you out of the patterns. And that is not a failure. That is the process. That is what we do. And to go back to what you said, Eunice, about kindness and compassion for yourself. For the longest time, when I would stumble or get caught up in a belief or a triggered thought pattern, I would then start to go, man, I thought I was over this. I thought I was better than this. I thought, like, haven't I done enough work? And then when I shifted it and said, oh, I just noticed that I did the pattern again. Then I go, oh, I'm humaning. Okay, we're doing the humaning thing. And then that freed me of the judgment of it. And then it just becomes part of the work. It's just like, I saw it again. Did I see it earlier this time? No, it took me a while to see it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Not a failure.
That's where the meditation comes in, right? Because when we're practicing meditation, whether that's like something simple as, staring into a candle or focusing on the breath, it simplifies the thoughts. That's the focusing does. And then that helps us in our day-to-day, throughout the day, to have greater awareness of when those thoughts that we don't want to be having come in, and we can have greater compassion and just keep coming back to the moment. Woman driving car, presence.
Yeah. And it comes back to the idea of, setting yourself up for success. And it's perfectly normal to have like these voices that are kind of like making you doubt yourself or kind of throwing you off your track. That's really fine. It's kind of part of the experience. What we can also do though is have an advocate for ourselves. We have a voice that is supportive as well, that is also kind of alongside the voice of doubt. The voice, having another voice that advocates for you is like, no, you got this. It's like everything's going to be fine. You're right on time. Things are good. So you can have these. They're not competing. They're just kind of like in the car with you. So and you can do that. And a real quick example about, we say things like, oh yeah, just put sticky notes up for yourself. It's like this. I mean, some of these things sound so like ridiculously simple, but I would put a sticky note by the cat box that was like that, had some empowering phrase on that. And it was there to the point that whenever I would clean the cat box out multiple times a day, I would see the sticky note. And now it's not there anymore. It hasn't been there for a while. But whenever I clean the cat box, I have this empowering thought that just naturally comes. I have programmed myself to do this like literally crappy task, but it is, I get an empowering thought when I do that. That's there's people you can do that by the kitchen sink for when you're washing dishes. So just the things that you are already doing during your day that you have to do, you can put something positive alongside with that and be really like rewarded and be surprised at how much of a positive impact that helps. Super simple practice, powerfully effective.
Absolutely. Habit stacking.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I wanted to expand on that idea of having multiple voices, that you add a voice that is your advocate. I use a tool, I call it my council of voices, knowing that there's all sorts of voices over the years that I've had. And the ones that I've had the longest and are the loudest are these adolescent voices about my lack of worthiness or my insecurities. And so there've been advisors in my head for a very long time. So I remind myself, I have new advisors. I have people that I've met that have shown me better ways of thinking. I've had experiences that are far more empirically proven of what actually matters. So then when the voices that are telling me that I'm not good enough or whatever, or that you shouldn't do this, I go, I hear you. And you are there's a lot that's happened since you've been out in the world. So I hear that. Now let me check in with these other voices that have much more accurate and much more up to date feedback for me about what's going on. I haven't been able to stop the voices, but I can diminish their volume by adding the ones that know me better at this time in my life.
I love that. Yes.
That's
Yes, it's parts work.
yeah.
I'd love to jump in on that. Actually, something like sparking for me on that one with the parts work is what I got to experience in doing some parts work with a practitioner is this enrolling of new voices and really coming to see that some of those older voices, those younger voices, those ones that are maybe trying to protect me from different things, I actually put them into place. And so I had a really cool experience where I had been really kind of battling this inner conflict around playing small. And I had this idea that it's just easier to play small. You're less likely to get embarrassed. And so there's this voice in my head that says, just don't do the thing because you'll just be safer that way. But then there's this other part of me that was like, oh, but I want to expand and I want to grow. And so in this session that I had with this practitioner, a therapist, I was able to get in touch with that voice that was trying to protect me. And it actually was doing a really great job of protecting me for many, many years. And I implemented it. I put it into myself when I was at a young age. And I got to have compassion for that part of myself and talk to that part of myself and actually say, hey, thank you so much for protecting me for so long. And now actually I really need you to be a cheerleader for me. And so I had this really beautiful conversation with her. I wrote a letter to her as she's like almost of this separate entity, but she's a part of me. And I enrolled her into a new position in my life. And so I had a direct experience right after that where I previously had been really fearful of jumping off waterfalls in some of my adventures. I was always the girl that would like go with the group and then just cheer everybody on and just be like, no, 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 I'll just watch, I just don't do it. It's easier not to do the thing. So this situation arose after I had done that meditation, going with a group to this beautiful waterfall. We're all going to jump off. And as we were going up to it, I heard in my head, you can do this. You've got this. You are strong. You are capable. This is going to be so fun. And I even caught it as I was going to the waterfall. I heard it. I was able to kind of pull out and witness, oh, it's working. The cheerleader's on. And sure enough, I got up there on the waterfall and I jumped off and it was amazing. It was a huge breakthrough. And ever since then, I'm like, okay, I love this inner cheerleader and can be compassionate towards that voice in my head that is a little more wanting to keep me small.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you gave that voice a promotion.
I did.
So,
yeah.
yeah.
I love that. That's awesome. Yeah, I like that you brought up that these voices are trying to protect us. I know a lot of my voices are from my parents, trying to protect me, and knowing that that's the intention makes it feel like it's not a battle. It's just some misguided love.
Yeah, it's and it's an acknowledgement, and recognizing like, yes, these voices are not necessarily trying to hinder you or trying to hold you back just because they want you to stay small or whatever. These are voices of protection. They were trying to help you. A lot of times, like you say, Halcyon, like there's the voice of the adult's voice to the child becomes the child's inner voice as an adult. So there's a lot of that programming that kind of kicks in. And one thing I learned in what we talked about before, previous episodes from my work with ayahuasca, was that, and it kind of took me a while to get my head around it, but the idea like we are never going to get to this place where we are healed, where we don't have some sort of issues to to deal with or work with. The important thing to learn is how to manage, ourselves, and like, recognize that these voices aren't necessarily going to go anywhere, but it's what you do with it that is going to get you to where you want to go to. So like Betsy, giving these voices a promotion. A lot of times these voices, they just want to be acknowledged. And so when you have these like negative voices, like, oh, this isn't going to go well. It's like, we can have a practice where like, okay, I hear you and I'm going to do it anyway. Or I acknowledge that, but I'm going to go there's going to be a different tactic, or I have a more positive voice, to, to lead the show, to kind of steer the car a little bit. So really, and once I kind of was able to do that for myself, like, okay, acknowledge and do the thing anyway. Feel the fear, do it anyway. That's like the definition of courage, is to, feel that fear and still go forth. Mm-hmm. We can all do that. And it's feels daunting, but yeah, it starts with the acknowledgement, like, recognize these voices instead of trying to squash these voices and deny their existence. Hear them, acknowledge, and make the choice that make the empowering choice anyway. And it's with practice, like anything, like practice makes perfect. We can get there.
I will sometimes make an agreement with that voice and promise that I will check in with them in the future. Like there's the getting things done model of you put things in folders and you go, I'm going to put this into a folder that I know I'm going to look at the end of the month. So I don't have to think about it until then. You like free your mind from these loops of oh, I got to make sure I do that. Nope, I don't have to think about it until I pull up this folder at the end of the month. So I will tell the voice that's telling me like, you're not making enough money. You're not making enough money. I'm like, I hear you loud and clear. I'm taking that input and I promise I will let you speak again in a month. I'm going to make the decision that I need to make today. And in a month, you can tell me again that I'm not making the right decision, whatever you think. But until then, you've done your duty. Sit down for a month.
I love that so much. It's creating this deep relationship with all parts of ourselves. Yeah. And being able to have that inner dialogue. So I'm curious, actually, from both of you, and love to check in about the difference between intuition and ego. How do we know when our intuition is guiding us, right? A thought that might come in that feels like, oh, wow, I need to do this. Or is that coming from somewhere else, right? How do you guys navigate the difference?
Ooh. Boy, that is the journey of the rest of our lives, as far as I'm concerned, is that inquiry and that discernment between where is this coming from? Is this a deep voice lesson that came from the outside and that has become internal, or is this truly something that is coming through me? And for me, a lot of time it is an inquiry on the thought and going like, can I figure out where this came from? Is there a source to this? And often then I can kind of pick through the source and go, oh, wow, I've never actually questioned this. It might still be something that resonates internally, but until I can find its source, it's definitely hard for me to figure that out.
Yeah, it's the difference between, I believe, the difference between intuition and ego is the difference between the head and the heart. Intuition is something that is felt within your heart, within your body. Ego definitely, for me, feels like it's kind of being drummed up in my head. It's like, I mean, this might be a little esoteric, but you kind of, how you can feel when somebody isn't being honest with you or like truthful with you. Like you just immediately are like, okay. And sometimes it's overwhelming and sometimes it's subtle. But that's your intuition. Your intuition is almost always right. Your ego is often wrong. These thoughts we have about, oh, this person doesn't like me, or I don't like this person because of whatever. It's like, there's a lot of times where the situation that we're kind of in our ego about kind of bears out. Often it was wrong. Whereas your intuition is almost always right. And is always, kind of supportive to you. We just have a hard time listening to that. So that feels the difference for me. Like recognizing the difference is like Halcyon saying that it's quite a challenge. So yeah, it's worthwhile work if we can do it.
And before we hear your answer, Betsy, because I'm eager to hear, because I feel like both of you, I think, are much more in tune with that intuition than I am. And I want to acknowledge that there's a lot of times when I'm like, is this some deep ego pride thing that's being tickled inside, or is it my heart? Like I feel like there's things that are deep down that I still am unaware, as I try to dig in and figure out, wait, is that, I don't know. So please, Betsy, help.
You're so cute. Yeah, I love this. I think that it is a continuous journey of refining our listening abilities, right? We have this incredible sense that is inherent in who we are as humans, right? This superpower. One of the things as I'm listening to you guys, I'm reminded of is the gut brain, the heart brain and the brain, right? We have these different resources of listening, and it's maybe a little bit easier to hear the one that's like up here. Maybe for some it's a little easier to hear what's happening in the heart. Maybe it's easier for some people to feel your gut, right? That gut feeling. And so what I've really found a lot of value in is the practice of fine-tuning my listening abilities. So coming back to meditation, right? So this morning I was sitting outside just listening to the sound of the ocean, just listening. And thoughts might come in and then they come out, and it's like, oh, keep coming back to the sounds. Just how fine-tuned can I be in my listening skills and just the changing sounds, right? And that I find really helps me to be able to fine-tune my ability to listen to all these different parts of myself, my gut, my heart, my brain, my body, right? And that's where I start to gain some guidance. And so also for me, one of the ways I connect to my intuition is through asking questions. So being very specific around the questions that I like to ask myself or ask my higher self, checking in with myself, not necessarily expecting the answer right away, but being very clear about what that question is, and then allowing the subconscious or intuition to guide me. And so those are some really helpful ways that I've gotten in touch with my intuition. And then also, I think it's important to pay attention to where, my ego wants to come out, and pay attention to those. And that's a little more tricky to see, right? Why am I actually making this decision? Where is this actually coming from? Why am I actually wanting to reach out to this person? Is this coming from my spirit, or is it coming from my ego? Am I needing to get something? And so just as continued checking in is probably one of the most powerful ways I've been able to connect to the difference between the ego and intuition.
I want to underline and put highlighter around the different types of listening that you were mentioning, because if there's people listening that are like me, listening to the body is a new and a difficult thing. I was in a retreat a couple of years ago, and we were going through these worksheets, and we would answer a question, and the next page was like an outline of a body, and it said, now draw on the body where you're feeling, and I'm like, what? I'm like looking at other people's paper, like, what, we have you feeling something right now? Like, and over the course of the retreat, like trying to go, oh, okay, I have a tightness in my chest. Is that what you're talking about? Is that what you mean? And actually, as we're talking, I'm like, my story that I can't hear that is I need to change that story, because yesterday, someone was a little disapproving and stern with me, and I was sitting in my car going, oh, wow, I don't like this feeling. I can feel in my body. But because I was able to recognize I was having the feeling, I was able to avoid my old pattern, which was a subconscious desire to stop the feeling, And so like, oh, now I can just feel the feeling and then figure out how much I really need to care about this and how big a deal it really is. And it wasn't a big deal, but until I could listen a little bit better. So Thanks for that reminder and that faith that it will get better.
Mm, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. And to be able to have choice. I feel like the awareness practice gives us access to choice because we always have a choice on where we want to put our focus, where we want to be listening, right? And the choice is more clear when we're aware that it's there, right? And then also just like touching on a little bit of the stories that we tell ourselves, right? You caught yourself in a potential story revealing itself, and just kind of echoing what you shared a bit ago about, oh, well, this person thinks that, or that person this, and all the stories that we make up mostly are not true, right? And that was also one of my biggest takeaways from the 10-day silent retreat that I did. Very surprisingly, I actually learned more about that experience through the interactions I was having, where we're not supposed to be having eye contact. We don't have gesturing, but we're still around people for this 10 days, not talking, and sitting next to people at lunch or walking past people. I was making up so many stories about these people. Like, oh, that person's probably like this, and that person's probably like that. Oh, and she's probably like this, and that person. And I, at the end of the 10 days, was able to talk to these people and watched all those stories get totally smashed. Everything I had made up was totally off. And so now I get to pay attention to the stories that I make up about other people that are like popping up, like, oh, that person's not talking to me. That must mean she doesn't like me. And it's like, actually, that's a story. I can see the story and I can choose to change the story and go like, oh, maybe I'll just make up a story that feels better. If I'm going to make up a story, might as well make up one that feels good. Oh, she's not talking to me. Well, I really honor her in the space that she's taking for herself. That story feels much better for me. And then if I need to go deeper with her, I can actually just ask her and check in and say, hey, how are you feeling? I love to connect with you. Are you open to connect with me? And then that helps to bridge the like actual truth.
Yeah. I was reminded yesterday of I was talking with my partner about a um it's I believe just a Buddhist parable. It's like that goes like, how do we let go of a rock that we picked up and we realize it's been like baked hot by the sun? You let it go. You just let it go. There's no need to write a story about it. There's no need to tell yourself about, well, I picked it up because no. It's all just story. So if you're gonna write a story, at least write a positive one, like you're saying, Betsy, while also realizing like, okay, we don't have to write a story. There doesn't need to be a story about this person. I don't have to have a story about the situation. It is what it is. It's just, and you can just let it go.
Yes.
And it really is that easy. Sometimes it doesn't sound that easy or seem that easy, but it really is that easy. You just stop the story. Like we talked about before, it's like, with relating, it's like, can we just stop fighting? Do we have to resolve this? Does there have to be a winner in this? Can we just stop? Yes, you can.
Oh, there's a choice.
It's a choice. We
Yes.
have way more choice in this world than we think we do.
Yeah.
And it's empowering to realize like, wow, okay, this is a choice.
Yeah.
I choose something different. And it's again, like everything else we're talking about here today, it's a practice, but you can get to this place where you just let go of the story to the point where the story doesn't even start. So it's we can do this, people.
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm getting a major spark. When we surround ourselves with people that are willing to call us out in a story, it can help so much, right? Like I've had people say to me, and I've said to other people, like, so how's that story working out for you? Right? Like, or like, oh wow, that's interesting. Like, do you feel like that's true? Like, oh, actually, wait, maybe that is a story. And like even checking in, like, oh hey, is that a story that you want to keep telling yourself? It's like, oh gosh, I didn't even realize I was telling myself that story. Actually, no, I don't want to be telling myself that story, right? And so I feel safe with you guys. I know you would call me out if you see me in a story. And I love having people close to me that are willing to be called out or called called forward, right? In that moment, because sometimes it's hard to see when we're deep in the story, right?
Yeah.
And so having people around us that can support us in seeing the choice is really powerful.
Yeah, I'm going to push back a little bit on that. It's easy, and I'll say it's simple, but it's not always
Yes,
easy.
it's true.
And
It can be
the
simple.
the tool that has helped me the most in this is Byron Katie's The Work, and she has a series of 4 questions that you do inquiry on a belief or on a story. And without getting deep into it, I'll just share the first 2 questions have dramatically changed my life. The first is this true? The second question is, can you be absolutely certain that this is true? And the number of times that I've been able to go dissolve some story because I don't know that that's true. Even if like the assumption just when you go, is it possible that that's not true? Things just, then that's when I can let go of the rock. Oh, okay. It's easier. It's easier now with that tool for me.
Love that.
Yeah. So,
There's a book I'd love to just also mention too. It seems like Staying Sparked often has these wonderful book resources, and I love it. One is called Embracing Ourselves. And so it's a good one to look up and to get a deeper relationship with the dialogue in our head and the voices in our head. So check that out, Embracing Ourselves, if you
And
haven't
we'll
yet.
put that in the show notes. And also just a reminder and a request to any listener. If you are listening and you have a resource that you would like to share with us, we would love to hear your tools as well. We are all journeys together or journeying together.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. If anybody has any feedback and any comments or reviews or whatever, we're definitely open to it. Absolutely. Like, keep us informed. Let us know what's going on. So, one thing I would like to just touch base on, just we talked about meditation. We talked about, how we get there. How do we get this awareness? The important thing, it doesn't. There's so many different avenues for it. But the important thing is that there has to be some this is a loud world that we live in. There's always a lot of noise. There's always a lot of hooks, the things that are trying to hook our attention. It's important to have, even if it's not daily, but it's important to incorporate some silence into our lives. So whether that's like first thing in the morning, like you really don't just immediately jump on your phone or get involved in your day or start listening to something like right away in the morning. It can be like on a drive when we're driving someplace. Don't turn on the radio. Don't put on some music. Don't turn on the audiobook or the podcast unless it's this one. To just kind of sit in silence and just sit with yourself and sit with your thoughts and have some sort of time in your day. Daily is fantastic, but at least somewhat occasionally, just to kind of start the process of just being in silence. And then that allows you to hear the voice that is going on in your head. And you can kind of determine what sort of, voices are kind of steering your ship. There was a while where I was doing a lot of back and forth driving from Los Angeles to San Diego and just felt the need to just do that drive in silence. And that's where I honestly did some of my best work, my self work, was just that on that 2.5 hour drive of just silence and driving and really processing my thoughts about whatever I'm processing about and realizing, what thoughts are empowering, what thoughts are hindering, and really did some really good work and finally got to a point where I was like, all right, I've got awareness. I'm kind of starting to figure out, who I am and who's really driving this car. But so a little bit of silence in our day is key. So however you come to that, whatever works for you, fantastic. But that's an important tool to get us to where we're talking about.
And you got to actively make that happen, because one of the tragedies of this time in history is that we have every bit of time and space has people trying to fill it with buzz, with words, with just attacking us with input. And so if you do not actively make space for the silence, it will be filled.
Yeah, you won't get it. Exactly.
Yeah.
I love that so much. And actively creating silent space with another person. So powerful, right? Have you ever instigated that with a friend or a lover, where it's like, hey, can we actually just have wordless space for a while? I love that. Like with my roommates, I live in community. And so we have an agreement that when we first see each other in the morning, we'll say good morning, but we also honor each other's silence and the no speaking space. So sometimes in the kitchen, we'll just kind of give each other a nod. It's like, good morning, quiet, stay quiet for a little while until we're ready. And it's really powerful. This need to fill the space with talking sometimes can actually make things awkward. And instead of just embracing what might be awkward of silence, it's really powerful. I love it.
Yeah. Well, and it kind of goes to what you're talking about before, Betsy, with habit stacking. Like there's a lot of our actions are due to habit. Walk into a room, seeing somebody, and it turns into this big, we chatter with each other, and there's a lot of habit involved with that. It's like I don't have anything to say, but I just feel like I got to say something. So we can, we can overcome that a little bit.
Although I do like this silence idea, and maybe our next episode we'll just hit record and just sit, and we'll just have an hour show. So.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love that.
Right. Good.
We'll close it up with some sparks, you guys. What are some sparks that are feeling ignited within you from this conversation around the voices in our head?
I've mentioned Byron Katie a few times, and there's a story that she tells that really kind of makes this all hit home for me. That she was talking about visiting a prison and hearing screaming from the cells at night, and pointing out that in the dark, this person lying on their mattress screaming has the exact same experience as a king lying on their bed in their palace. They're both lying down in the dark, but the stories, the voices about what's happening, is creating this heaven or hell based on the voice that they are letting run rampant in their head. So that coming back to man sitting in chair and freeing from the voices is that's the I will leave with that thought.
Beautiful. I'll leave with a something we didn't really touch too much on, but is a huge part of my life, is the effective use of affirmations. And essentially what you're speaking to, man sitting in chair, is just a really basic affirmation of presence, right? And so using an affirmation not to bypass how we're feeling, but to acknowledge the moment. So one of my favorite affirmations is, I choose my thoughts. I choose my thoughts. I choose my thoughts, because this affirmation just helps me to gain awareness that I'm in some thoughts. It helps me to quiet down the monkey mind, the swirling loops that I don't really want to be in. And so really staying inspired by affirmations that bring me into the present moment, not only just to think positively, but to just gain deeper presence. How about you, Janus?
Yeah. It kind of goes back a combination of what you've said, Betsy, and one of the last things we touched on was the power of silence and choosing your thoughts, positive, habit, positive affirmations. We had the idea of like placing sticky notes around to kind of self-program our thoughts and our thinking, and that's also easy to do when we're in silence and not kind of bombarding ourselves with input all the time. So I think these two things combined really powerful to get us to have the awareness of our thoughts and those voices in our head, and also to give ourselves the ability to choose new thoughts, to choose better thoughts for ourselves. So really like kind of shaping our environment and then putting things in that environment to that kind of set ourselves up for success. And goes back to the idea of being our own advocate. We can do this, and now, like Halcyon says, like it might be simple, it's not easy. But there's like all this stuff we talk about here. It can be done, and just act little things lead to big things. Start with like small beginnings. So just take the first step, and we can all get there together.
It's getting easier. It can get easier the more that we keep showing up. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And maybe I'll close it with that affirmation.
I love that.
This is one of my favorites, is that it's very simple. Life is getting easier. Life is getting easier. Life is getting easier. And then just based on our sharing today, one of my favorites, I am aware of my thoughts. I am aware of my thoughts. I choose my thoughts. I choose my thoughts. I choose wisely. I am aware. I choose my thoughts. And so it is.
So it is.
So it is.
Thank you, Betsy.
How do we get Betsy's voice in our head?
Well, I actually have some audio affirmations out there if you guys haven't got a chance to listen. I have really loved to create these audio experiences primarily on Insight Timer. If you guys have that app, you can find me on there. There's some really amazing, I consider, magic spells for all kinds of things: easeful travel, miraculous healing, prosperity, gratitude, trust. So you can find some of those audio affirmations and me whispering affirmations into your ear as you go to sleep or start your day.
What's the name of that app?
It's called Insight Timer.
Insight, okay.
Insight Timer. Or you could also find it on YouTube or on my website.
Beautiful. So we'll put those links. I also have it reminded me, I have a morning blessing with my ASMR voice that I will also put the link in the show notes. When do we get to hear your ASMR voice recordings, Janus?
It's going to take a while. It's going to take a minute to practice. My whispering voice isn't so soothing.
Don't stop talking. Don't stop talking. Don't stop.
Yeah, so I'll have to, if you're into like the baritone, then you come to the right place. I got you.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Janus, where can we find more of your magic, your offerings in the world?
Speaking of improving your thoughts, my company is New World Nutritionals. It's a nutritional based supplements that are geared for improving your state of mind. All based on mushrooms and amino acids and other herbs. It's like a spa day for your brain, as my partner likes to say. So you can find us newworldnutritionals.com. That's nuworldnutritionals.com. And people are getting a lot of good results with this, with dealing with symptoms of like anxiety, depression, ADHD, PTSD, things like that. So you can use the code SPARKED to get 10% off of any of our products. So check it out.
How about you, Halcyon? Where can we find more of your goodness in the world?
I am doing live broadcasts 3 times a day, streaming, and where we're sharing gratitude, and it's kind of related to steering your thoughts. And I think it's a really beautiful, helpful practice to listen to others' gratitude and help that to form your thoughts in the direction of the thoughts that make us happy and heal. So you can find those all my stuff at links.hugnation.com. How about you, Betsy?
Amazing. I love that so much. You can find my work in the world on my website, FINKLEHOO.com, or also PowerAffirmation.com, where you can see more of my offerings in the healing arts. I'm a massage therapist, an energy healer, sound healer, and I work in Solana Beach, California. And I also do virtual offerings with the Power Affirmation Journal and virtual groups where I help people to reprogram limiting beliefs in an effective way and teach skills that help to cultivate sustainable happiness. So you can also put SPARKED in the discount code and get 10% off.
Amazing. Perfect. Yeah. Beautiful. You want to close us out with one of those affirmations?
Oh, yes, more. Yes, always happy to do more affirmations.
I'll take more, yeah.
All right, so I'm going to share with you guys a simple practice so you guys can join if you would like to out there. Take a moment from whatever it is you're doing, if you're multitasking, to infuse your thoughts. Simply put your hand on your heart, close your eyes, gentle tuck of the chin, little bow to your own heart. And we're just going to use a simple affirmation as I am present. And you can repeat it about 10 times here. I am present. 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 Getting quieter now. I am present. I am present. I am present. Now just internally in your mind. And relaxing the hands, opening the eyes. Let that support all of us and staying supremely present to this beautiful moment. What a gift it is to be alive and with you guys. Thank you guys for listening. Stay sparked.
Stay sparked. Love you.
Stay spark, people. Love you.